Welcome back to the Foundation. This is Beethoven, and if you are at this point where even though you've done all the leveling and the panning, and your melodies still sound like they're clashing, I believe the next step is actually sidechaining the melody. We're so used to sidechaining our kicks and our 808s that we kind of forget that we can sidechain other things, and it's particularly useful for instruments that, excuse me, take up the same stereo field and frequency in the stereo field. Don't know why I said that backwards. In this case, I have a harp and the piano in this track, and I was working with this yesterday. I have a video of me making the harp melody from scratch. I decided to continue it because it sounds weird, but there's potential in there, especially when you add some more effects and just try to create some space with this, I believe. And that's what I did. Um, so the harp and the piano were kind of interfering with each other, even though I have the piano to the left, right? The harp is actually going down the middle, but eventually it pans to the left and the right. But they kind of take up the same frequency. So I sidechained it. And how I sidechained it was I put the sidechain on the piano, right? And I'm saying right because I'm assuming that you guys understand when you're sidechaining the kick and the 808, you put the limiter, and I think fruity limiter is good enough. You put fruity limiter on the instrument that you want to be turned down. All right. So I put the fruity limiter on the piano because I want that to be turned down by the harp when the harp plays, which is side chained only to this track, by the way. See, that's what I have right there, side chain only to this track. Every time that disconnects, you have to go back to fruity limiter and reapply the side chain just for future reference if anyone ever does this. Okay. And the settings that I use in fruity limiter is, well, what I do is I actually always turn the ratio all the way up. In this case, I didn't because due to me turning the ratio all the way up and then playing with the threshold, it allows you to understand like the extremes of it. All right, and I only do that with the kicks and the 808s, and I still do. I don't really care, like, cause you can get a certain bounce from it. But I turn the ratio down, and let's see, like we can see it play, so you like kind of see the waves and stuff like that, and how they're being affected. I mean, we kind of heard a little bit more than I wanted you to hear right there, so we're just gonna hear this real quick. And the threshold is like you. So the threshold is this blue line you see right here. But the thing is like the blue line can be above that purple triangle you see right here, right? And it's really the white triangle. So when you start pulling the threshold down and you start seeing the purple, that's when you start seeing the stuff actually working. That is the most simple, basic way you can say it. Right? Pull the line down, start seeing the purple, it's working. Right? And that's why I say put the ratio all the way up because it makes it easier to see that. But if you don't want the harp in this instance to affect the piano that much, then you pull back up the ratio. You know what I'm saying? Make the ratio less. Uh, and the thing is like maybe you heard it and you didn't even hear like it was side chained or something like that. That's because it was working. Because before it was really clashing in my opinion. This is what it sounds like, and it was clashing, especially when there was a lot of the harp playing, a lot of the piano playing. Like towards the end of that right there, I think there's just a lot of clashing, right? And what my idea of this is like, well, it's like, well, how can we bring in a different instrument, have the other instrument not fade away, but still be heard in like the background almost. Okay. So if the user, or not the user, it's like I'm fucking writing a program. If the listener wants to be able to still hone into that sound, they still can if they pay attention to it. And that's kind of what you do in some songs, right? Like maybe you hear some cool song sound in the background, right? Even though it's just like a texture or something like that. It's like, well, they probably did turn it down, but that's probably the effect they're trying to get, in a way. Turn it down that way instead of like just like the volume, because like I just don't think the volume was enough. I even went into like the equalizer, and I actually unequalized it because I was like I could just sidechain it. I don't think equalization was necessarily the issue, because it's just like all I was gonna do is turn it down in a specific frequency. You know what I mean? And I don't think that was enough. So, but like that's just a sidechaining melody, like thing you guys do for the sounds or within the same frequency range. And basically, what I'm saying is clashing. And even if you can't even tell they're clashing or not, if it doesn't sound right, you can go into an equalizer, right? Two different equalizers, and it's just really the harp is on the left and the piano's on the right. And if you think they're really clashing that much, you can hone into these frequencies, right? Listen in and all that sort of stuff. You can actually, with Pro Q3, uh, have it so you can see the other instances of Pro Q3 up, but it doesn't work for this for reasons I'm not going to explain. Cough, cough. But yeah, so honestly, this whole track was inspired by this sound right here. It's kind of a weird sound. I got it from some free plugin, Screw, and it's like a format synthesizer. A format synthesizer or format in general filter is something that kind of turns something and makes it into having more of a vowel sound. Like if you really think about it, you can almost make the sound with your mouth. You know what I mean? There is some effects added to it, but even still. And then I just decided to add these chimes because I also just decided to download it. They sound whatever. I feel like they're a little loud. And since I like working with the harp and the piano and the guitar, mostly because that's all I have anyway, that's what I added. And this is what the beat sounds like so far. I think somewhere in there we can add like a string or something, like something else, just so it doesn't keep sounding the same. 808s, I probably can change this a little bit, but I'm not too worried about it. It is what it is. So anyway, because we're not just going to listen to this beat, I forgot to explain this too. This harp melody right here, right? So I love doing this with harps, okay? So like, I initially started the melody off, and I love doing this with melodies, creating more depth with the melody. But it's kind of better to do this with harps, in my opinion. It's like I had a simple melody right here with the harps. This was the initial one, and I was like, all right, the initial one is always just gonna be like the intro one. You feel me? Because with harps they always do that multiple one. They hit multiple strings, like a literally what I'm doing right here, like that right there. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what I did to add more depth in like the melody, just more layering instead of adding more instruments. Like even though it's not, I'm not gonna say it's complex, but the melody's not. It's not simple. You know what I mean? Like it's not complex though at all, right? But they always say simplicity is key. Less is more, right? You can see a lot of notes in this, so it's just like, right. That's why I kind of want to turn it down, have resonance in it, have it in the background almost, because I still think there's room for like just another instrument, And I did kind of have a pattern right here for like a violin, but I made that last night before I went to sleep. It was garbage actually. I don't think a violin's gonna fit. Maybe a flute. I like flutes, but I have to like just buy some better banks. Unfortunately, I spent my money on the wrong stuff in life, so that's just what that is. My music could probably be like fire, but the way I added that depth with the harp is by so look at the original one. The original one starts with a B, right? You know what I'm saying? And it's just like when you want to play that full harp chord out, all I did was use that lower B and then added a higher B, right? An octave up. And I added chord notes in between that made sense, all right? So it's just like, let me see. Let's actually just, all right. So like that doesn't make sense. That's minor. You feel me? That sounds a little minor. So you're gonna have to hear around a little bit. If you don't, you're just gonna have to use your ear for that one. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm telling you that you're gonna use the bass one and the octave key up one when using this harp depth method. Right? This method to adding depth to your harp. Okay. That's what it is, I guess. That sounds a little bit too happy. All right, we're not in Hawaii. Okay. So it's like if we're gonna use a suspended minor chord with an octave, if I'm not mistaken. But who cares about that? Who cares what the technique? Man, just copy the technique. You know what I mean? Like the problem is that there's so many people teaching like the goddamn intervals and numbers and shit that no one cares about. You know what I mean? It's like you see what's happening here. You know what I mean? This basically is going to apply to harps. It can apply to anything, but it sounds cool with harps. You feel me? There you go. I mean, I have a guitar, but guitars, they also strum. That's what it is, strumming. I can't believe I couldn't think of that word early with harps. But who strums a harp? I don't think that's the right word. Strumming a harp. Maybe it is. Fingering a harp. There you go. But yeah, you strum a guitar. You finger a harp. But with guitars, the yeah, I'm not putting all those notes in. That's crazy. You feel me? That's too much. I'm gonna just do this. It's not even a guitar. It's a piano. But yeah. That's what I have. That's my 2 cents for anything that I have to tell you guys about anything. I guess. There you go.